Hello and welcome to Good Show, the podcast helping you answer one of the most daunting questions in television. What am I watching next? I'm Brandon Sharp.
And I'm Anthony Mako.
And on this episode of Good Show, we are discussing Reacher. Jack Reacher, with no home and no real destination, gets off the bus on a whim in the city of Margrave, Georgia. He is immediately arrested on suspicion of murder, forced to spend the weekend in prison, and compelled to prove his innocence by assisting the police and tracking down the people responsible. Jack Reacher was first brought to life in 1997 by Lee Child in his first novel devoted to this character, Killing Floor, which also happens to be the novel that this first season of the show is based on. Since then, Jack Reacher has appeared in 26 additional novels with over 100 million copies sold, 15 short stories, 2 movies, and now this television series, all over the course of 4 different decades. Reacher was developed for television by Nick Santora and aired for the first time on Amazon Prime in February of 2022. Season 2 is quickly approaching, or so we've been told, and with that, Anthony, let's talk Reacher.
Let's do it.
So, another day, another show I've forced you to watch, right?
Yeah.
Is
But
that the long and short of it?
Yeah, I don't know if you want me to say it now, but I did quite enjoy this one.
Yeah, you felt, to me at least, a little more agreeable. That doesn't sound great, but you acted like you were a little more excited about this one than maybe some of the other ones I pitched.
Once I started watching for sure, but I was not at all like leading up to it. I was kind of like thinking I was going to have to endure it. Like I've mentioned stuff like that before to you, sort of not misunderstandings about Reacher, different things like that. And
right,
I've brought them up before, but I was going into it. I was just like, here we go, but it shouldn't be too big of a deal. Just kind of get through it. It's funny that you mentioned it in the synopsis at the beginning, but one of the things that when I was watching the show, I was thinking, okay, so the guy's brought in on suspicion of murder and has not had a trial yet, and they send him straight to prison. Like, what are we doing here? You don't get sent to prison before you have a trial.
Absolutely. And I mean, the idea there was corruption. I mean, they arranged that whole thing.
Well, the only reason I brought that up now is because like I bumped on that really hard when I was watching the show, but then the more I got into first of all, the sort of feel of the show, and second of all, the story of the show, I let that guard down a little bit. Now, I don't always need everything to line up perfectly if it's in the right style of show. And this was the right style of show, I really think. Like, there's a lot I was able to, I think we'll get more into that later, but there was a lot I was able to forgive. Forgive is not the best word, but there was a lot I was able to just like, I don't need to hold this literally. That's not the kind of show this needs to be. And still really enjoyed myself.
Wow.
I know.
I feel like that's a big deal.
Yeah, it was.
Specifically for you. The reason I say that, I feel like a lot of our conversations or disagreements, that word seems a little strong, but a lot of our conversations where we aren't quite lining up has to do with that topic.
What?
Things being believable, things being necessary.
It does come up a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to be fair, here's the thing I think not just you do to me, but lots of people do this to me, and I can't quite figure out why. I'm often accused of just not liking something because I don't, like I'm just being hard-headed and I refuse to like it because it was your idea and not mine. Something like that, which may be the case some of the time. I just don't think I do.
If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, and
okay, but it's possible that I'm just not liking it because I don't like it, not because I've decided not to like it. Like I usually have pretty good reasons for not liking it. And so when I come back and I'm like, I like this just fine. It's like, cause I did. I don't know. I'm not.
So correct me if I'm wrong.
Also, I don't know. For example, with this, I clearly trust you with TV, and you always think I'm like,
that's taken a hit though recently.
So that's what you think. I don't know why you think that.
Okay, so this is a great example of like how you will say ABC, like you will say all the things required to be accused of something later, but when someone actually accuses you of something, you're like, whoa.
No,
that is what you do. Yeah. Well, so, side note.
Maybe.
Anyway, we can move on from that.
But even the stuff that you've recommended to me that I don't like, it's not like while I'm doing it, I just kind of end up saying, yeah, I don't like that. But it's not like I was like, oh, this idiot, what's he thinking recommending this? Like I sort of enjoy it enough to watch it and probably like, well, I don't know. I don't know why Terminalist is just bouncing in my head. I'm not even sure you're the one that did that to me, but
we actually that's one that we actually kind of fell into that muddy puddle just separately. Like we were both kind of just there, and we were like, well, we both watched it.
Well, and something like that where it's like, or I don't know. Give me an example of something you made me watch that you don't feel like I ended up liking.
The Peripheral is the best example because it just happened and it's true.
Yeah. Okay, but like. That's not a bad example. I see why one would like this show, and then, but if let's say hypothetically you have a podcast where you talk about TV shows and whether you like them or not, I'm gonna have to go ahead and dig down and be honest about like, did I like it that much? Well, no, but I don't think you're silly for liking it. You know what I mean?
So I want to. You're gonna be super annoyed about this, but
great.
Since a couple days ago, you told me one of your friends agrees more with your television choices than mine. Correct?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not going to name him or I'm not going to embarrass anybody.
It really hurt your feelings.
It didn't hurt my feelings, but I've been thinking about nothing else ever since. And I came to the conclusion that I am someone who just kind of likes things, or I'm okay with kind of a lot more, just a lot more stuff in general. There's also a few archetypes that are just I'm always going to love.
Yeah. Oh, that's for sure true.
This like strong male militant type lead thing. It's also the type of novels. I read a lot of novels like this too.
That's what I was going to say, was basically like, also you've dedicated a ton of time to this character. So why wouldn't you be all in? Like as soon as it drops, you're all in. You have read all the books. So
sure. But I'm not just blindly all in because
no, I'm not insulting you by saying that. I'm just saying like,
I don't think you were. I'm just saying there's other examples like the Tom Cruise movies, which I was not a fan of really.
Yeah. Right.
So, I mean, I'm all in to a point. You know, and I definitely want to check it out whenever a character that I've read has an adaptation on screen. I want to at least check it out.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I am definitely someone who just kind of generally likes things, especially that kind of fall into my categories, fall into my lane. So
do you feel like you need people to agree with you?
Validate?
Yeah.
Only like, not if I'm just going to sit there and enjoy it and, like not to enjoy it. I don't need people to agree with me in order, like, for me to enjoy the show, but I wouldn't then turn around and throw my full weight behind it. I need people to agree with me sometimes in order for me to fully recommend it.
Yeah.
I'm not someone who just like, I'm not someone who just like, yes, I don't do that a whole lot.
Yeah.
Unless you just get a feeling about some stuff and you're like, this is objectively good.
Sure. I mean,
that happens too.
The funny thing is you're basing your 3-day bender of feelings off of like one comment I made over text.
A half a comment, really.
Yeah. And
I did most of the talking in that text conversation. You were just kind of like, yeah, kind of.
Well, as per usual.
I led you right to I was like, that's what happened, right? And you're like, kind of, yeah. I mean, it was mostly me.
But the thing is, like, he doesn't like a bunch of the stuff I like too.
And
I just said he lines up with me a little, like more than he lines up with you. But it's not. Sure. He doesn't like a ton of stuff I like too.
For the record, I'm good now.
Sure, because you brought it up immediately.
Do I feel good now?
No, you brought it up first 5 minutes of the
podcast. I'm so unconvincing. Correct me if I'm wrong. Your wife watched the show.
Yep.
When it aired, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really early at least.
Okay, so why didn't you watch it then? Because I kind of want to figure out what was maybe holding you back, and then I don't know, like I don't want to just keep falling into I force you to watch it for an episode. surely there had to be something that, you know, at least kept you watching, kept you zipping through it, or, you know, something to that effect.
Oh, well, I ended up liking it, which is what kept me zipping through it. That's to answer that question. But like, why didn't I watch it with Leah is a different question. And that's because we watch TV at different times. Sometimes, like, there's some things we watch together, but also she'll power through. She really likes something like this. She likes crazy action, but also like she likes, not to sell her out too much, but like she'll throw on like Hawaii 5-0 in the background while she's working, or
new or old.
New.
Okay.
Or
Book 'em, Dano.
What's that?
Book 'em, Dano.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, nice.
You know what that is?
That's Hawaii 5-0.
Okay, I didn't know if you had watched it at all.
Yeah. Or she'll put, she loves like, well, yeah. So, but we just don't watch a ton of TV together. Also because neither of us sit down and watch TV straight up. I mean, we do a little bit, but when we do that, we usually watch it together, or we get out of order and I'm 6 episodes ahead. So just go ahead without me. So, I mean, but the reason I powered through this was just because I got in there and ended up liking it. Yeah. So, yeah.
So you said action. Yep. What else do you feel like describes this show?
It's certainly crime. It's a not mystery, but
it's got a whodunit line going through it for sure.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a mystery crime drama. So I mean,
okay, all right,
you're on that for sure.
Yeah, and then with heavy action, like almost like superhero action, over the top action, really big fights, really crazy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I want to really unpack some of this later, but Reacher is just supposed to be like a monster of a man.
Yes.
And so these fight scenes, I really feel like were supposed to feel like he was the Hulk.
Yes.
Going up against like pretty big people, just in their own right.
Yeah.
But anyway, I get why those fight scenes just felt so brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that was something they were definitely trying to accomplish.
I do think the violence in the show was particularly graphic. That had some really like those kind of moments, like you see something on screen where you're like, oh shoot.
Specifically with fights or
slamming someone's face into
like a sink or something.
A sink, but like it would in a less graphic show, it would cut away real fast. So you like have the slam and then it cuts away. And this shows the full thing.
Yeah.
For like 5 seconds into the slam, and like, so it's just a little more.
It's a brutal show for sure,
but not inappropriately brutal. I don't think
it's gratuitous.
I don't think it's gratuitous, but and it matches his style, his fighting style, and just the superhero. That's sort of what I mean by superhero. But but yeah, it is definitely intense at times, and they don't let their foot off the gas on that. It's heavy action.
It does feel like there's a lot of fight scenes.
There are, yes.
In the books, I would say, I mean, I think it kind of matches this first novel. There was quite a bit of fighting. Not all the novels are like that.
How do you remember those details so well when you've read so many Reacher novels?
I just need something to kind of get me back in that the story, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I remember all that.
Yeah. But also you read so many of those kinds of novels. So just like, how do you know it was Reacher and not Ryan? And it's just,
I don't know. I remember stories really well. I guess I need to get I need to shake the cobwebs loose a little bit, but then, once I was like, okay, yeah, this is the one where this happens, this happens, this happens. And then I'm in the right headspace. How do you feel like the show looks? And before you answer that, I'd like to tack on a little extra question that we have done now 6, maybe 7 Amazon Prime shows.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know not only how you feel their shows look on the whole, because I mean, Rings of Power kind of just, we're grading on a curve at this point.
Yeah.
But I was curious how you feel about just kind of the shows in general and do you feel like you're in a place where you trust the platform in the same way like where you would trust like an HBO? Maybe not to that level, because HBO's they've been this longer than anyone. You know, they've been doing this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like, are we able to kind of like trust the platform yet?
Yeah, I would say so. Yes. I still haven't, I'm not gonna be able to back this up with a reason at all, but I will not yet go surfing on Prime for a show. I kind of it needs to be connected to something else, or like for example, All or Nothing. If there was a new All or Nothing, I'd watch that for sure and be excited about it.
That makes sense.
But I'm not just gonna scroll through Prime and
like a drama.
Pick
you wouldn't
a show.
Just snag any drama out of thin air.
Yeah, like Netflix, I might be like, oh, if that's recommended for me, I might give it a shot if it's new, something like that.
Now that's one. There was a time in which I would do that on Netflix. I would snag something, but I won't really do that anymore.
Probably me less so now too on Netflix for sure.
Honestly, I just kind of assume everything's fluff and nonsense unless
I feel like Netflix's advertising though, or their art even sort of lets you know what is going to be what before you get there. So
that's true.
It's a little easier to see like, oh, that's not for me by the title or by who's in it or the colors on the cover art. And Prime is just such a wasteland. And what I mean by that is just so much stuff on there. So, and then like I've said before, the thing that just makes me so mad about Prime is oftentimes on Prime, I have to search the show. I've been watching one show and I have to search it to find it. And then it's just really hard to get to the next episode I was on. I just feel like the interface is rough. And so it bothers me so much to be in there that I'm not going to go in and look around for something to watch. If somebody recommends something, and in fact, like what Prime show have I seen that I didn't think looked good? Just like this show looks good. I mean, it looks really, really good. It's more colorful and brighter, I think, than something like Jack Ryan. Or not brighter. It's actually fairly dark.
No, it's more saturated.
Saturated, yes, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Jack Ryan has the cooler tones for sure.
It really is almost like, what was that series of movies that was, there was some series of movies that had enhanced colors in it. And I don't remember what it was, but anyway, it's certainly, that's whatever it is. It's a kind of a bad example anyway, so I don't need to bring it up, but it's just like a little more, it's a little brighter. It's a little, a little more saturated. It's almost like enhanced color, which is cool because it's so much like a comic book.
And it kind of goes with the story a little bit.
Oh,
Now that I hear you walking that out a little, to some degree, I feel like it could describe the story.
Yeah.
So characters.
Yeah.
One thing about Jack Reacher stories for the uninitiated, all of the characters pretty much, there are reoccurring characters, but when you pick up a new Jack Reacher novel, most of the characters are going to be new characters.
Oh, interesting.
So one thing I think is interesting, I've already heard talks about some of the actors saying, I would be in a Reacher season again. Yeah. I would come back. And it's like, well, the story's not going to allow that. Now, with a couple of exceptions, like his friend and the first person I like to talk about, Maria Sten plays Francis Neely, his army friend, his army buddy.
That would seem to make sense to bring back.
Yeah, she's great. I really liked it. She is a new direction for the character, just kind of based on what I've read in the novels. I thought she got the essence of the Neely character.
Okay.
She's kind of no nonsense. She's got some She's got some trauma in her past. She's real she doesn't like any male touchy, anything like that. But I thought she did a good job. Anyone else stand out to you?
I actually thought Willa Fitzgerald was great, and I spent more time than I thought I would thinking about why in the world does this sort of
plain Jane?
Yeah. But what I was trying to avoid, it's almost
you weren't referencing her looks at all.
No, I wasn't referencing. What I was thinking was the reason I paused was because what I was about to say was sort of a spoiler that you find out kind of early, but I don't want to spoil it yet. So if you want to watch the show, because at first you don't know what Reacher and whatever her name is, what their relationship is going to end
Roscoe?
up. Yeah, Roscoe. What they're going to end up being like.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil it because what I'm going to say. So this is just a little spoiler.
Doesn't affect the story at all.
It doesn't affect the story much, so it's okay. But they end up being sort of a love interest.
Yeah.
And at first, I'm like, this does not work. He's huge. She's tiny.
Tiny. Yeah.
But she was so strong. And her character is strong. She's, snarky.
Is that what you mean when you say she is so strong? You mean like literally her character, her personality?
Yeah, not muscles, but
okay.
She's not muscular, but she is strong. Like not.
She's fit. Yeah,
she's not a damsel in distress.
No, she's not dainty.
Yes, but also she's not. She's gonna fire back. She's snarky. Mm-hmm. She's and all that stuff. So what's funny is when you set her up against Jack Ryan, it's like, how could this
Jack Reacher? Come on, man.
I'm sorry, dude.
It's going to happen.
Why does it have to
times.
be Jack is the thing?
They're all Jack.
I know.
It's all Jack.
I just don't. Yeah. All right. Anyway.
I named my son Jack. So it's just.
Yeah. So Jack Reacher and her just don't seem like they should work, but they actually, for me, worked. So that was great. And but also I think it had a lot to do with Willa Fitzgerald, just nailing that character, the strength of the character. And I really like the character. Yeah.
Yeah. What I like about her is everything seems kind of understated, and then she surprises you.
Yep.
Like at first you wouldn't. She's like naturally pretty.
Yeah.
She is just she could be someone you like walk past in a room, but her personality demands attention.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yep.
And I love how there's a couple times when she not quite faces off with someone, but just shows her strength of character, strength of personality.
Yeah.
And I do feel like Willa Fitzgerald did a great job with this character. And I'd say it's pretty true to the book. I think she did well. I think so. Finley was the detective.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you feel about his character?
Not great.
Yeah, not great. And the Finley character
is probably good. Like that seems like a good idea for a character, but
that's what I'm saying. Like the character, is a pretty good character.
Yeah.
I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know who I would get to replace him, but yeah, just the acting wasn't quite there for me. Anyone else?
He was back and forth between Goofy and a couple other things, and it just didn't. I just wasn't sure who he was.
See, I feel like he should have been a little more all business, but there was a couple times he did kind of crack jokes with Reacher. They almost had like this Falcon Winter Soldier thing. That's a deep cut. Oh, did you get that reference?
Yeah.
They almost had like this
that's
banter that shouldn't really have been there.
Yep.
It didn't feel like it really.
Well, a lot of that came at the end though of the season, and it was like finally he's warmed him up, and that was all right with me. It wasn't terrible.
Alan Richardson's acting.
Well, I mean, I don't know that it would always work, but it worked really well here. I like because he's such a comic book character, you can overact the heck out of it, and it works.
Yeah, I think the Alan Richardson casting kind of makes the Reacher character a little fluffy, just a little bit.
Okay.
Just a little fluffier than he maybe should have been. I don't want to cut my legs off from under me, but as far as like the acting goes, Tom Cruise might have been a little more in line with like how he played the role.
Like more serious?
Yeah, more serious.
Yeah, because Alan Richardson does a lot of. He's very sarcastic. Number one, number two, he does some joking around that I wouldn't. Yeah.
And I feel like Reacher, less is more with the talking, all that stuff. And anyway, but I think I will take a Richardson over a Cruise, just kind of based on being able to exist in these scenes and not look like a little kid.
Yeah. Bruce McGill was, I'm just going to call that, it's not, he didn't do anything special, but he was great casting for, like, that's who they needed for that character. So I thought that was just like, oh yeah, that's perfect casting.
He's a great character actor.
Yep.
He plays that kind of role.
Yep, exactly.
Kind of a lot. And he does well.
It seems like they would be like, we need a Bruce McGill type. Why don't you just get Bruce McGill?
Call him.
I was not entirely convinced by generally speaking, the bad guys.
The crew that rolled around town.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the son too, just was not daunting enough.
Yeah, it's interesting because we have like a weird mix of like completely unknown.
Yeah, for sure.
Actors. And then there's a few kind of knowns. Kristen Krick she was like a Smallville staple. She's been in a couple other things.
Yep.
But she has like a really small role in the show.
Yeah, I was just looking at her thinking like, what was she in the show?
She was one of the maybe more well-known actors, but her role was pretty small.
Yeah.
So the acting is interesting here. It's just
yeah, for sure.
It's kind of an oddball array. But some things they did well, some things could have been better. That's not going to be the reason you keep watching the show, I think is
sure.
Maybe the point here. The story though really moves at a good clip.
Uh-huh. Yes, it does.
Anything drag for you in there?
No.
Any slow points?
Nope. Especially compared to, I think this show knows what it is and it goes for it. And you don't need to, they don't even give you time to think about how this thing might work out logically. It's just like, no, this is what happened. And we move on. Sometimes fights can drag on in an action show. And I didn't think any of the fights dragged on either. Just, I do think the pacing was really good in this show.
Trying to think of some of the fights that we've seen. I mean, the only one that comes to mind is like the 20-minute high school fight in Cobra Kai.
Well, that's terrible.
But these do feel like not only do they not last long, they're kind of exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least to me.
Well, and I think what I think Reacher does well is, if the story behind Reacher is that he's the toughest guy in the world, then he better win these fights pretty quick.
Yes. And
he does. It's not a spoiler really, but like, because it's not a spoiler because like, it's just basically set up the whole time, like who's going to beat him in a fight. And then he just wins every fight really, really fast.
But I got to tell you, I mean, that may sound boring.
Oh, no, it's not at all.
When it's like when it's happening in the story, like when I'm reading these fights, it's really interesting, compelling. Like it's really fun to read also.
Yeah.
As much as that sounds like it might not be something, but it really is somehow exciting to read and now especially watch these Reacher fights. How do you feel like the dialogue rolled off the tongue?
It works just fine
for the show.
Yep. For the show. And you're not winning any writing awards, but
it's not Shakespeare.
Right. But, and it is a little bit like we've complained about in other shows. It's got that
toxic bro talk, something in that, the bro talk, right?
Something like that.
Or is it more like, is it really, let's dissect that. Is it really centered around like military? Like military bro?
It's not, I don't think it's military because I just don't, I haven't been there, but I don't think military members are tough talking people after something.
It is tough talk though. That's what it is.
But it works in this show.
I think it maybe works in this show the best.
Yeah, I agree. Cause it's comic book-esque. So it's, it totally works in this show, I think.
So easily the most hotly contested topic surrounding Reacher is what he would look like in real person. Did that sentence make sense?
No, I was just going to let you keep going. What he would look like in real person.
What he would look like as a real person, or what he would look like in real life.
I find this so funny. Let me pause you and just say I find it so funny that you almost like this more than any other show. You and your Reacher buddies are out there somewhere chatting up like you're just almost talking about like the zeitgeist of Jack Reacher. And I'm not aware of anyone else that's in that conversation.
I actually don't have. I have one Reacher buddy.
Okay.
And I won't out him. But as soon as he hears this, he'll know that he's who I'm talking about. And your friends
embarrassing about.
No, there isn't. But I mean, you're friends with them. I just don't. Okay. Who knows what people want other people to know that they watch or read.
Sure.
Anyway, if Reacher were adapted, which he has been now a couple times, to a screen form, what actor would play him on screen? That was a question that when the books were coming out, that we didn't have anything yet.
Yeah.
That was always kind of the question. You would see there would be like Reddit threads and everything. And like, look, this guy looks like Reacher. This guy, it would be just random stuff like that.
Yeah.
So Lee Child is very specific about Reacher's appearance. And yet we still get the Tom Cruise versions of this, which went over like a lead balloon. Yeah. So I'm just gonna take a couple seconds here to describe Reacher, and maybe you can just give me like a knee jerk on the Alan Ritchson casting, and see if I can set this up maybe a little bit like, oh, now I've read some of the book. So anyway, he's described in the novels as 6'5", 250 pounds. That's just kind of baseline there. Long-armed and long-legged with a thick neck and hands the size of dinner plates. Child has said that he modeled Reacher after an English rugby player who was just big and brutal looking. I don't know if that helped at all, but military background, I think that might be where Richardson loses me a little bit. But military background, a drifter, not really clean cut, or some other things that come to mind.
Like, really interesting.
Various like scars on his face. I mean, like kind of just a guy you wouldn't stop and like pick up as a hitchhiker.
Oh, so not Mr. Attractive.
Not Mr.
Okay, well, that's a problem, I think, for
big and ugly. Like
he looks. Alan Ritchson looks good,
and he's like really clean cut.
Yeah, right.
And he wears like skin tight t-shirts.
Yeah, and he's like borrowing t-shirts, and somehow they
I think
perfectly.
I think he's definitely an upgrade from Tom Cruise. Because we're getting the size factor.
Sure. Yeah,
he's tall. He's big. I heard he put on 30 pounds for this role.
Huge. Yeah, I mean,
he's a monster. He's got massive arms.
But also, I think they shot it in a way that makes him look even bigger. Because I think Alan Ritchson is only like 6'2" or 3.
I think he's 6'3", yeah.
And then he's like towering over everybody. And so I just can't. I was watching the show thinking like that must be exhausting to have to make him look so much taller in every single shot. Like, but they did a good job. He looks huge.
Yeah.
And still 6'3" is tall. So like,
I think this version is a little more though of a pretty boy for me. He fights like Reacher. He does nail a lot of those things, but the fact that he's really clean cut. I mean, we see him once, I think, in Army Fatigues. There's like a flashback, and it almost just doesn't quite fit for me.
Okay.
I don't know. I think there are good things here. There are not great things, but overall, I was pretty pleased, especially since the last thing that we saw was Tom Cruise playing Jack Reacher.
Yeah, I think I didn't know how bad Tom Cruise was until you see Alan Ritchson, and it's like certainly Tom. And I almost don't remember anything about the Reacher movies.
They weren't like the first one.
Yeah,
the first one was not hateful.
I'm not saying it's bad. I literally don't remember anything about it.
Yeah,
except that first scene where they're arresting him in the diner. That's it.
Mm-hmm. It's not a terrible movie. It was pulled from the novel One Shot, and they got the story was pretty good. Jai Courtney's in it, who gross.
Terrible,
I mean, I just not great. So there was like some casting issues for sure, but the story was okay. Anyway, though, I think at this point Alan Ritchson has been an upgrade from Tom Cruise. That's all.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All that to say, an upgrade here.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. I like this character, so I don't have to compare him to a book just because I haven't read it. Yeah. I like him as a character. He's he's heroic. He's very strong. He's I like his sarcasm. I like I like him as a character for sure.
So that being said, do you feel like he is someone that we want to be, or is it someone like we want to have our back?
Probably have my back. I wouldn't want to cross him. I don't really want to be him. I don't want to be picking fights with everybody all the time.
So you think he really picks a lot of fights?
Oh yeah, he's definitely looking for trouble.
Okay, but you could say he's looking for trouble on behalf of. He's not always just looking for trouble for himself.
Yeah,
right?
But sure, he's like most of his.
Like he's righting wrongs in his mind.
Yeah, but he doesn't right every wrong. He just gets something stuck in his craw, and he's like, now I got to
burr under a saddle.
Yeah, I mean, well, in this particular one, he's got a reason to be so connected to what's going wrong. Otherwise, I don't think he'd be involved.
Yeah, I think there is one scene. I don't know. Even this scene, like he's walking into. He's not even in the diner yet. He hasn't even done anything really, and there's a husband apparently, not apparently, he is talking very poorly to his wife, and he stops. He does. I do feel like he feels the need to.
Does he intervene in that situation?
He doesn't, not physically, but like he is just, he kind of glares at them, which turns the tide in that situation. So yeah, he does intervene, just kind of standing there and being foreboding.
That's interesting. He wouldn't strike me as it would strike me that he would just be like, that's none of my business. I'm staying.
Leave that alone. Yeah. No, he does insert himself a lot. Okay. And I do feel like that's kind of how the character is written.
Okay.
What about the ability to not solve all your problems with violence, but if you had to, you're just completely comfortable in that arena. What about that? Is that appealing at all?
Oh, sure, in a fake way. But the problem is, if you're that good at fighting, even Reacher deals with this a little bit. But if you're that good at fighting, you're gonna be so quick to fight. And I don't think. And
so
I'm not talking.
That's kind of the downside.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the sort of contemporary Reacher, but when you go to flashbacks, like he's picking trouble.
Oh yeah, as a child. Yeah, that's a good point.
He's stirring up trouble where it doesn't need to be stirred up. And it's just because like it's this confidence or arrogance.
He can't leave anything alone.
Yes.
I think is the main thing.
Yes.
I don't know that he's really stirring up trouble, but he can't ever let anything go.
Right, but he's ready to. He doesn't even attempt to talk anything out. It's fight first, and that's fine. That's great to watch in the show. I'm not putting the show down. I'm just saying that's why I'm not jealous of it, because I'm quicker to talk. I'm quicker to run my mouth. So that's not usually what I've wanted to be.
What about some of the let's put the muscles down and maybe pick the brain up? He's very intuitive.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I felt about that particular part, because I sort of like, I like when a strength can be a strength and then you have some flaws. I don't like perfect people.
You think he's kind of a Superman type?
Yeah, because I mean, he's just like coming in and he's the best detective also, but he also can win every fight and he shoots the best. And he's just like, now that works in this show because it's a cartoon-esque show.
Yeah.
But so it didn't actually bother me, but I could have done without him being Mr. Detective. But he was, I mean, it was interesting. I like that he wasn't dumb.
So that's part of his backstory, though.
I'm sure. I figured, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was in this elite investigation group, military police.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they walk some of that out a little bit. But
no, they did, yeah.
You're right. The flaws are few and far between. Yeah. And he almost has like a mentalist thing going on with being able to, I don't know, tell people all this stuff about themselves.
Yeah.
About themselves when
it's and it's not completely convincing because
he first meets them. Yeah.
Because if you're like, your first instinct is to fight, you're not paying attention to everything around you. Like you're And he's like always observing everything. He's like, well, 8 minutes ago, you said the word "the" 7 times. You know,
I don't feel like I have sufficiently pushed back on his, just as you know, the Reacher Brotherhood. I don't feel like I've sufficiently pushed back on. I don't know why I threw my fist in the air. You're gonna have to cut that.
No, I'm leaving it in.
I don't feel like I've sufficiently pushed back on the idea that Reacher is always looking to fight. I think at least the one friend I have that is a Jack Reacher fan, I feel like he would point out the ways in which Reacher's pretty reluctant to actually get into a fight. And maybe that's the way this television show.
Yeah, I don't think he was in this show.
Yeah, and maybe that's
he is in the book, but
maybe that's the way this show has decided to write that character. I do feel like he is always very reluctant in the books to actually get pulled into a fight. He's like, ugh.
I'm thinking about like the prison when they're in the prison cell, and he's the one that starts the fight. It's like,
no,
I know they're coming. He knows they're coming to start a fight. I'm not saying he's unjustified.
He swings first to. I mean, I don't want to get too graphic, and I don't want to get too racy here, but I mean, he the other guy was going to get raped, so he stops that.
You sort of assume that's what's going to happen, but it's not like almost happening.
No, you're right. We didn't actually see it happen. Thank goodness.
But what I'm saying is like he doesn't waste any time going there. Like I'm not saying he's unjustified in what he's doing.
He's
I'm just
also
saying
in prison.
Some people might just be like, hey man, don't do that. He doesn't even tell him not to do it. He just hits him, which is fine. That's great. That's great for the show.
I think that's fine if you're walking down the street, but it's prison.
Okay. Well, that was just an example, but like, that's the sort of thing I was thinking.
I'm over here acting like I would be taking down the biggest guy in the prison. I don't know. I mean, like that.
Yeah.
That felt appropriate for prison. I agree. Maybe if he was, I don't know. I think you're right. This character does feel a little more like that for sure. What differentiates a show like this, all these things we've laid out here, from a show like Terminalist and a character like James Reese?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the freshest example I can think of. I think that works a little better than the Jack Ryan, maybe like Jack Ryan comparison.
Knowing what it is, Reacher knows what it is and leans into it. Terminalist bounced around, like I said when we talked about it, bounced around between like psychological thriller and action.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Reacher is not that. It's straight ahead action. Okay, so number 2, I just think Alan Ritchson is more convincing as a soldier and the best soldier ever, like than Chris Pratt was. Like something's popping in my head where he grabs he grabs a gun that was not, he didn't have the gun before, and he grabs it real quick and shoots somebody 3 times. But even the way he did it, I was very convinced that like the first time was sort of, as he was shooting 3 times, he got control of the gun. And the last time he was in full form and his form looked good, but he just shot as he was, it just looked like a move you would do. Mm-hmm. Whereas Chris Pratt rarely ever looked like he was doing a move you would do. I don't mean to say rarely. Sorry. I'm just saying, I think Alan Ritchson was more convincing as a super soldier.
I think also, I mean, and you've kind of talked about or alluded to this a little bit, like the levity involved in the Reacher, the Reacher show.
We haven't talked enough about that. Probably there's a fair amount of those little ice breaking laughs.
Yeah. Terminalist is like, is start to finish. You're on just kind of this gut wrenching, just straight revenge, dark, not a whole lot to like, you never crack a smile. There's nothing ever that happens with any type of humor on screen, really. And this does have like moments to catch your breath, moments to laugh. There's good interaction between, I feel like the actors, even though we've kind of remarked on the chemistry, no, I'm sorry. We've remarked on the casting, how it wasn't always great. I feel like the chemistry is good.
It is. Yes. I agree.
And that works out at least with like the 3 main kind of the 3 main people.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because I like teams. And there's a team in this, and I love it. And that also sort of differentiates between at least some of the stuff we talked about with Jack Ryan, or we've talked about with The Terminal List, where it's like usually lone wolf. Sometimes the team comes in, but this was fully team. It feels a lot like Jack Reacher, even though he's super soldier, Mr. Detective, all these different things.
Yeah.
He couldn't have done it without the team, and at least, without his sort of sidekick. But
yeah,
even though he's the best, there are at least two moments that I can think of. I'm missing. What's her name? Roscoe. Roscoe saves the day twice, even though he's Mr. Super Soldier, Mr. Detective. And so, that's I like that a lot.
My next question, I feel like we've really handled well already. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of commenting on maybe the cartoon quality of a show like this and a character like this. And that's obviously a little hyperbolic.
Right. Yeah.
I wouldn't go like full, he's a cartoon character. But I do feel like he is an idealized man character, just
certainly soldier, someone with a lot of training. So nearly hero. You could say hero, not superhero, or something like that. But man is a little casual, I think. But
does the story and like the show itself, does it have enough reality? Does it stay down to earth enough?
Yeah,
where it doesn't feel like you're watching The Boys or something.
Yes,
just something
for sure.
Super over the top.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
think that's the important thing.
There's honestly nothing unbelievable about the universe. I think what I mean by, and first of all, I think I've said cartoon too many times. It's misleading how many times I've said it's cartoon-esque. Yeah. So I don't mean it like that. But also, I think all I mean is that it's okay to assume Jack Reacher's going to win. Mm-hmm. Whatever, he's going to win every fight. And that's the sort of cartoon nature. I mean, you don't have to worry a lot about it. But I, for whatever reason, found that pretty refreshing. And I thought it worked really well.
All right. Rapid fire here. Last couple questions. Yeah. Anything feel too gratuitous? We've talked about the fighting. Anything feel over the line?
No. I think it all fits the style really, really well. Some of it is somewhat graphic, but so I'm not to say, but
there is one murder where you see the dead body and it's particularly grisly.
Oh yes.
But I would say other than that,
and that was a little out of style, but
it's like the one thing in the show that I'm like, gosh. But other than that, I don't feel like anything feels too over the top, too much.
Yeah. There's graphic stuff. It's just not. I don't feel like it was gratuitous. I feel like it fit the show. You come to expect it a little bit.
All right. Also, last question. Some of these novels are flashback or origin story novels. Novels that they could potentially pull from for the next season. We've talked about our dislike of prequels. I know you have especially.
Yeah.
Has this character done enough interesting things on screen for you to be in on a prequel story?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
I would probably be most interested in a prequel story.
Like the military days,
Couple things. I like the childhood stuff. I thought the childhood stuff was really good.
I didn't even think about that.
And I also, certainly and he probably had different phases of military service. So, from super soldiering to also like, whatever the police force he was in. So I think all of that. And clearly Reacher's got some demons, just like it. They're not really talked about much in the season, but you can tell like he's driven by some like bad life experiences. So, it'd be interesting to dig into some of those for sure.
Yeah, it's eluding me at the moment. I did hear what the next novel it's going to be based off. And I have read it and it is one of my favorites. So I'm excited. I'm excited about that.
Awesome. Yeah, let me say a final word. I was pleasantly surprised, really enjoyed myself. I'll definitely watch the next season. I highly recommend this. Oh, and you know what I haven't explicitly said yet? I've said it to you. I like it better than Terminal List. I like it better than Jack Ryan, I think. Sorry. But the show. I know. It is what it is supposed to be, and I just really like that. So I think it's my favorite of those three for sure.
It would be really hard for me to say I like it more than Jack Ryan. I know the story is a little bit of a slog there in a couple of those seasons.
Yeah, I'm probably also basing it off the last couple seasons, not the first season. Yeah. I really like the first season, but yeah, anyway, it's really good. It's good enough for me to make outrageous statements like that.
I appreciate your take because this is one of those things. This is in my blind spot.
Mm-hmm.
Reacher's in my blind spot for sure.
Yeah.
Something that I kind of really love, and I'm always going to like it.
Yeah.
And I never know. And this is the, like we were talking about at the very beginning of the episode, specifically these type things are things that I never know if they're really actually good.
Yeah, sure.
You know, because it's just like right in my wheelhouse. So I would watch it. I would love it. I don't know if it's actually good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, exactly this. I didn't know if this show was actually good.
Yeah.
And then I start reading a review. I start, seeing the errant Rotten Tomatoes score or whatever. I see a little buzz and I'm like, oh, other people are liking this too.
Mm-hmm.
It gets renewed for a second season. That's a good sign. So that stuff starts falling into place.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. But
no, yeah.
Anyway, I was glad to get a new perspective on this. So thanks, man.
Yeah.
Well, what are you watching right now?
Yeah, it looks like we've watched some similar things. So current on Shrinking, and I almost feel like we haven't said enough about Shrinking yet, which we don't need to say anymore. We will eventually do an episode on Shrinking. We just don't really do episodes until the season's over. But it's just been so enjoyable.
Well, that's one of the few shows that nothing had aired yet, and we were like, we're doing a season, we're doing an episode on that.
Yeah.
So we knew before the first episode aired that it was going to be good and that, that it was going to be something that we were going to like, just kind of based on the creators. I don't know, and maybe some of the actors, but it is excellent. It's getting a little bit of flack. Did you know about any of that?
No.
Yeah. I don't know. This is the forum.
Tragedy.
Just kind of the way they're dealing with the therapist, and
because he's being unprofessional.
Well, I don't know how much I want to say, but like the idea that he's found the silver bullet to help these people, and no other therapist before him has, and like I
don't think that's what they're saying.
I don't think so either, but it could come across that way, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does that make sense at all? Anyway.
Okay.
I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It's easily one of my favorite watches of the week.
The funny thing is I love Jason Segel, and he's like my least favorite character on the show.
Agreed.
There's so many good characters. Like
there's a couple characters that couple actors I've never seen before are fantastic.
Oh, really?
But the one coworker, the neighbor, I've not seen them before, but the neighbor's husband.
Oh yeah.
Is so funny.
Yeah. The one coworker, not Harrison Ford, she was on the Daily Show for a really long time. And she was, I always thought she was a hilarious and
she's
a
good
huge
in this.
star. She's one of my favorites for sure. And Harrison Ford
is how did it take that long?
Yeah.
How did it take that man this long to do a television show?
Nailing it, man. And I can't believe he's just nailing it. And he's 80 and oh my gosh. Yeah.
He's so good.
Crazy.
So freaking good.
Okay. So anyway, we're going to do an episode on it, but yeah, I would say hop on that bandwagon as fast as you possibly can. Cause it's really, really good. I also
that's probably our top recommendation overall right now.
Oh, sure. For sure. I don't mean to steal this from you because it's on your list too, but I'll just say it because I'm going right now. I checked out because of you put up sort of a poll on Instagram and asked people what they were watching, and I saw somebody posted that what they were watching was Poker Face.
Yeah, my friend Adam.
Okay. On
Yeah.
Peacock, and I think it's only Peacock, only available on Peacock. So that sort of stinks because you got to get Peacock just for that. But you can watch Premier League games if you do that. Anyway.
Hot take on that real quick.
Yeah.
This is, hold on, let me get my terms straight in my head. This is a procedural disguised as a serial.
Yep.
You watch the first episode and you think this is going to be a season long story arc.
Right.
And season 2 hits, season 3, and you're like, this is a procedural.
Yep.
I don't know. That's just not my first, like, I'm not like hot to jump in on a new procedural.
Yeah, I get that.
Anyway,
well, I like this sort of, it's not actually, I wouldn't even say it's a fresh take on a procedural. It's just like,
I don't know. It kind of is.
It is. It feels very fresh, but it also is sort of like old procedurals, like going back, a little ways. But
yeah, his other recommendation, or his other, what he's watching right now is Columbo. And
yeah, I was gonna say it's sort of like Columbo.
He was saying the formula is very similar.
Yes,
the formula is very similar there. So totally. I thought that was very interesting.
Sorry, yeah, well, it's all right because you watched it too. But I've really enjoyed it so far. I think it's very enjoyable and lots of interesting characters. And And then I also finally checked out. Probably I'll do a quick hit on it, but I finally checked out Abbott Elementary, and I think I've made jokes on here before about how, like, every time I see an Abbott Elementary commercial, it's like the top network show of 2022. I agree.
It's getting all the buzz.
I agree. It is. The reason I checked it out was because it was on the lists, and I'm trying to make my way through the 2022 best whatever of 2022 lists. And I agree. It is the best. Like, now it's a network sitcom. It is a network sitcom, and I don't generally. You hate them more than I do, but I don't generally like network sitcoms anyway. But it's got to be the best network sitcom on right now, I think. And it is very modern. It takes a little bit from everybody. It takes a little bit from The Office. There's a lot of, like, looking over to the camera, whatever, not saying anything, but looking over to the camera.
There's the interviews too, right?
Yes, there are the interviews. I don't know.
I have seen a little. I've seen a little bit of it.
Why am I interview blind? I had this problem.
I don't know. That's real funny though.
But
with Parks and Rec, yeah, you said the same thing.
I don't feel great saying there are interviews, but yeah, I think you're probably right. There are interviews, but so it's definitely got some chuckle moments. It's got some really heartfelt moments and it's dealing with a subject. It's basically dealing with an inner city Philadelphia school, and like you said to me when you text me, teachers will love it. If you're a teacher, you will love this show. It kind of catches it not only will make you laugh about certain things about teaching, but I think it sort of catches your passion. Like, it'll pull on your heartstrings more than anyone else, for sure.
Pull on your heartstrings, plus puts its shoulder into some of those, like, laugh out loud or like, oh my gosh, that happens all the time type moments.
And being righteously indignant about, whatever system that's keeping you down and your passion for teaching. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely, and my favorite thing about it is it's created by and starring Quinta Brunson, which is like my favorite. A little embarrassing to admit this, but I will walk around the house saying her name in different ways because I think it's such an interesting name to say.
Say it again.
Now I'm gonna mess like it, but I don't want to now but I'll just walk around. Quinta Brunson.
Like, do people
Quinta Brunson?
Does Leah hear you saying that?
No, I don't do that kind of stuff.
Just when you're by yourself.
But I'll just roll it around the tongue. I think it's a nice name. And then
how many seasons and what is it on? You probably said already.
It's on ABC. Oh, except I watch it on Hulu.
So it's on Hulu.
Yeah,
then?
I watch Hulu. But it's on ABC.
How many seasons? 2 or 3?
2 now. Yep. Second season is out now.
We doing an episode on that?
I don't think we need to, honestly. There's not enough about the show probably at this point to do an episode.
Does it feel familiar?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like Modern Family for sure with a different subject matter. And so it feels very familiar, but, and then I didn't know if you had any thoughts about the Super Bowl, just because it was last night for us, even though Super Bowl's TV, so I feel like we should briefly mention.
You literally have halftime show.
I know, sorry. Well, we talked about the halftime show last year. I guess
we did.
Really quick, I'm sick of the refs tossing games to Kansas City, number one. Number two, Rihanna.
Is that a thing? Because I've heard a lot about that. I mean,
know.
obviously the Bengals, this is Bengals
against
country,
the Bengals call was worse.
Oh, okay.
But this call was like, come on, you're going to decide the game on a ref call? Like, no. But anyway, that's about the game. And then the halftime show, I'm just going to defend Rihanna and say I thought she did a great job. I thought it was fine, but some certain people are
I've seen a lot
upset about it.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that.
Well, but it's the same thing.
I didn't watch it, so I don't know.
Okay. I'm sort of a Rihanna fan. That's fine.
Okay, fine.
Both my daughters are like insane. They both wanted to stay up and watch it. And Leah and I were just like looking at each other, like laughing about how like it was pretty inappropriate, but they don't even know. They just like the music. But anyway, Rihanna, like the post coming like from probably mostly Christians afterwards who were like, I can't believe they put this junk on TV and blah, blah, blah. What did you think was going to happen when Rihanna was the halftime show? She does that, and she's like messing with you. Don't let her mess with you. Don't get upset about Rihanna. She's going to mess with you. Don't let her mess with you. You don't like that? I don't know. Shut it off for a while. Don't just watch TV in order to get mad and just stew on it for days. Like, no. What did you think was going to happen when Rihanna, have you heard her songs?
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, anyway, just not worth getting worked up about. And I
did read a little bit of that. I didn't see any. That was the easiest decision I made all weekend, not to watch the Super Bowl. So,
I will say I might be done with football.
Do you even watch college football at all?
I watch it. I've watched it less and less and less and less. And then obviously the Browns signed a sleazeball quarterback, so I didn't watch hardly any Browns games. The Browns are my team. I didn't watch hardly any Browns games, didn't watch that much football, but then it's Super Bowl, you go to a Super Bowl party. But I'm just like, why am I watching this? I feel like the slowest sport in the world. It's terrible.
I feel like now that you're Mr. MLS and kind of EPL and all the other, that could take all of your time alone.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Throw baseball in there.
I'm watching. I'm not.
What else do you need at that point?
Yeah, golf. I'm back on. Golf's back on. I'm watching all sorts of stuff. What do I need football
golf
for? I love golf.
Oh, okay. I always thought like
Quinta Brunson
was kind of like watching fishing or something. I don't know.
Quinta Brunson.
I'm not even fishing. I'm watching fishing. I stole that joke from somebody, by the way.
Okay.
Someone will know that I did, and they'll come at me.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
I have a question real quick. I know we're dragging on here a little bit, but I have a question. Have you heard anything about, I stumbled across this, American Auto? The only reason I ask is because
just heard.
Humphrey Kerr is in it.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say?
I've just heard about it. That's it.
Just heard about it. Well, I heard it had some problems. I only watched an episode. It wasn't getting good. Well, now that I'm looking at it, it's got a great Rotten Tomatoes score. I had just seen some articles that were kind of hitting it a little bit, but Humphrey's in it from Wrexham and from all the other, Always Sunny and everything else.
Right.
Anyway, I didn't know if that was on your radar at all. That's on Peacock.
No, I think I've I think I've heard about it because of Humphrey, but that's it.
Okay. Anyway, current on Shrinking, current on Last of Us. I'm just going to keep laying that out there because that's in your future, man.
I'm going to hop on it sometime soon.
Yeah.
It's just getting all the buzzword.
Current on Mayor of Kingstown. I feel like you're forcing that one out of my system, which is fine because it feels like it's ready to be forced.
I'd probably check this out, and at some point I'll get CBS for a little bit and catch up on 1923 and Tulsa King and Mayor of Kingstown, but I just don't have it right now, so I'm
for sure. The last thing, and this isn't really in our lane, but have you ever seen the movie Heat?
Yeah.
It's on Hulu right now. I had never seen that before in my life. I watched it last night. Oh my gosh.
It's rough.
It's real rough.
Yeah.
It's so good. I mean, there is also this iconic shootout, and I think it's in downtown LA. And I've even heard that parts of the scene are used as like training videos for police. It's supposed to be really realistic, and Val Kilmer, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino. Oh my gosh, it was so great. I loved it.
Yeah, it's
anyway,
good movie. Yeah.
Not really our cup OT on this podcast, but that's on Hulu right now if you're so inclined.
Nice.
Anyway, that's it. That's me.
Awesome.
All right, good episode.
Yeah, it was good. All the ones we think are going to be shorter are always the longest.
I think there's some fluff in there.
That does it for this episode of Good Show. Good Show is created, recorded, edited, and produced by Anthony Mako and Brandon Sharp. Our theme music was written and recorded by me, Anthony, and all our graphics and socials are developed by Brandon. If you've enjoyed your time with us, please make sure to like or follow us on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. And if you appreciate our show, please throw us a rating and a review there too. If you'd like to discuss any of our content, you can search the Good Show Facebook group or follow us on Instagram at The Good Show Podcast. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.